Okay, so we are going to go from that to another film. And I'm going to bring the slide up right now for you guys. Um, so we're going to go to another film here in a minute. I don't know, but hopefully it does well. Yeah, look, I hope it does really well. I'm never one to, say, oh, I hope it film. No, I'm not. I'm not that type of person that I hope something um, bombs. That's not me. I hope it does do well, and so um, okay, so so we have another film that is going to be coming out the same day, and this it's another problem. Okay, we have a couple films coming out the same day. Okay, so Pixar has been for the last, I would say, 5 years. Okay, JPEG had a lot to do with it. Okay, I'm not gonna dismiss that. Um, but that being said, Pixar's in trouble because they are, their track record for the last 4 or 5 years has not been good. Okay, because of the pandemic, and yeah, I understand that. So because they're going to be fighting for that audience too. Okay, so this comes from THR. And it says Elemental steps in the ring as major box office test for Pixar. After one of the most impressive winning streaks in Hollywood history, Pixar has seen its fortunes reversed in recent years with last year's flop of Lightyear, which I enjoyed it. Now I haven't seen it since, but I remember I do remember enjoying it. In a pandemic era policy of sending its feature straight to Disney Plus, now, Pixar faces a major test of brand strength as it prepares to unveil Elemental, its first theatrical feature since the COVID-19. Directed by Peter Sohn, the film is based on an original story in which the world of water, earth, and air all work together. Okay, and they live together. Among earlier reviews, the title has an underwhelming 64% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, a low number for Pixar. Additionally, the movie is tracking to soft 37 to $38 million over the same weekend, which it shares with The Flash. Only a handful of Disney releases have debuted to less than 50. There were plenty of negative headlines when 2007's Ratatouille opened to 47 million, but the naysayers were proved wrong when the pick transformed into a box office sensation. Before the pandemic, such an opening for a new Pixar title would have been hard to imagine. The Incredibles 2 in 2018 or Toy Story 4 the next year. Both ultimately topped $1 billion. Then, just as the crisis struck overseas in the United States, Pixar and Disney launched Onward into theaters into early March of 2020. The film limped with a global gross of 133.4 million as theaters began shutting down en masse. The next three Pixar films, the 2020 Oscar winner Soul, the 2021 Luca, and last year's Turning Red, were sent straight to Disney Plus in the United States and other select major markets, even though the box office was coming out of everything in recovery mode by the time Turning Red came out. Many criticized uh, Disney's former boss, Bob Chapek, for training families to watch Pixar films in the comfort of their own home versus promoting the theatrical experience. Lightyear was indeed released on the big screen in June of 2022, several months after Turning Red. Although it was based on one of the studio's most iconic Toy Story characters, it managed to earn up only $218 million, an alarming low number for one of Pixar's movies, which was believed to cost around $200 million to produce. Elementals itself spans the earlier and current creative regimes at the studio, with Sohn conceiving the idea for the story after directing the 2015 The Good Dinosaur, and was asked to speak at an event in the Bronx. where he was born. Seeing his immigrant parents in the audience, quote, hit me very emotionally and I broke down in tears, he remembers. That gesture of appreciating their plight and what they had given up and risked for me really affected me. When I got back to Pixar, some friends and bosses at the time said, that's your next movie. Observers point to not only pandemic challenges, but to a generational change in leadership, particularly after the 2018 exit of longtime Chief Creative Officer John Lasseter, who departed after acknowledging workplace, quote, missteps, end quote, that left some employees feeling, as he wrote, disrespected or uncomfortable. He now runs Skydance Animation. Much of that has been made of the Pixar Brain Trust that provides creative guidance on each movie, and that too is seen changed. Many of the original Pixar Brain Trusts that started the company are gone. Ed Catmull, John Lasseter, Steve Jobs, Brad Bird, Storyhead, Joe Rafton, and more. Observed Tom Sito, an alum of Disney and DreamWorks Animation and an animation professor at USC, I'm sorry, guys, USC. That's one animation exec. These movies bring a diversity of filmmakers and the richness and depth, which John brought, is not there anymore. After Lasseter's departure, veteran Pete Docter, who joined Pixar to work on Toy Story and a director of Up, Inside Out, and Soul, is the only director to have won 3 animated features. He was named as the studio's chief creative and what enjoys wide support. Peter loved and respected Pete. No one is questioning his talents, an animation source with past ties to Pixar said. Animation is a long game. You can't place too much success in the success or lack of success of one picture. Still in June, Pixar, which maintained its campus in Emeryville right outside of San Francisco, was hit by Disney layoffs, which affected 75 employees, including Lightyear director Angus McLean and producer Gail Sussman. According to Sam, Elemental's brain trust included Doctor and Andrew Stanton, Finding Nemo and Wall-E, along with Dan Scanton, Dom Sheeney, and Brian Larson. As the next chapter of Pixar is written, the animation world itself is becoming more competitive and crowded. This year alone, Illumination Entertainment, the Chris Mendelsohn-led Home, and Minions franchise has had a huge hit with the Super Mario Brothers, which has topped $1.2 billion worldwide. Sony Animation's Across the Spider-Verse, the sequel of its Oscar-winning movie Into the Spider-Verse, has claimed $208 million worldwide since its May 30th release. Next, Netflix, which has become a force in animation, with Benicio del Toro winning the Best Animated Oscar earlier this year for Pinocchio. It has a slate that's going to be including Nimrod. I'm sorry, guys, can't pronounce that. Based on the graphic novel of the same name, and Chicken Run: Dawn of the Nugget, which is a sequel to Chicken Run. So it goes on and talks about the rest of that and everything else. So basically, here's the thing, okay, that Pixar has to really show they used to be a powerhouse, okay, and they're no more. So now it's going to be what can they do to regain their viewers, because they don't have many anymore, because they're all been accustomed to watching these films on that. I think it's going to take a couple of films. I don't think it's going to be this film, because the fact is that it's just not going to make a lot of money. I think this film has to really do well overseas in order to make, I don't think it'll turn a profit, but I think it has to do well overseas to really establish and reestablish everything about it. But that all being said, it can be done. It can be done, and I think that it will be done. It's just going to take a couple of, pictures, because look, you have movies like, The Incredibles 2 that made over $1 billion, right? Even though that was 2018. So it's going to take some time. So we'll see about that. Anyways, guys, what do you think about Elemental and Pixar in general? Are you going to go see Elemental? in the theaters, or are you going to wait until it comes out on Disney Plus? If you, what are some of your favorite Pixar films? Who's your favorite Pixar character? Is it Buzz? Is it, you know, like, is it Woody? Is it Buzz? Is it anybody else? Let me know your thoughts down and I'll get back to you.